Ich darf Ihnen Patrick MacLeamy vorstellen, Gründer und Vorsitzender von Building Smart International seit 20 Jahren und gleichzeitig Vorsitzender von HOK Architects in Louisiana, USA. Er hat in den USA, aber auch in Europa studiert, bekam seinen Master an der Universität of Illinois und ist natürlich als Architekt beim National Council of Architectural Registration Boards registriert. Nach kurzer Praxiserfahrung realisierte er, dass die ganzen Entwurfs- und Bauprozesse fragmentiert und ineffizient waren und sowohl in seinem Unternehmen als auch natürlich auf der Ebene von Building Smart ging es ihm dann sehr darum, diese Prozesse effizienter zu machen. Und genau das wird das Thema seiner Rede sein. I just introduced yourself, and then I'm going to tell the people here that you're going to talk about Building Smart at 20 years, transforming how we designed and build. So your story, how planning and building has changed in United States and Europe. The floor is yours.
Good morning. What a pleasure to see all of you here today. I'm particularly proud because my friend and colleague Rosso Steinmann has built this German chapter into a real powerhouse chapter. So Rosso, thank you. We're excited about the prospects here in Germany and with the German-speaking chapter. When I speak in Germany, I usually tell a short story, if you'll allow me. Ich habe ein deutsches Blut. My Großmutter was from Saarbrücken. I just learned yesterday that Saarbrücken, they have very good food there. I have not been to Saarbrücken, but maybe I should go. As you can see from my lack of hair, and the hair that I have is white, I was not brought up in the digital age. So what am I doing up here in front of you? I had traditional training to be an architect. Always wanted to be an architect. Always loved the idea of designing buildings and shaping the environment. My dream about this architecture was, and is, we create wonderful places for people to ennoble all the things we do in our lifetimes. That's the dream. I learned to draw with traditional tools. Some of you younger people may not recognize all of them. Especially these are my favorite tools. I had some young people say, I know what that thing is at the top. What is that machine at the bottom? So if you don't know what it is, it's an erasing machine. So this is how I learned to work. Changing what I had already done required erasing. And I must say, technology has helped with this because now it's easy to erase. And traditional tools used in a traditional way are excellent, excellent tools for simple buildings, like the house for my dog. I can describe the house for my dog in two-dimensional paper pretty simply. I have a few pieces of wood, I have some glue or some nails, I have some paint, and my dog will be happy. This is how I learned about architecture. I did not learn many other things that I had to learn later. What's the relationship between the architect and the engineer? The architect, engineer, and contractor, subcontractor, building equipment and parts suppliers, and the owner. My God, the owner, most important one of all. I began to learn this after I finished my traditional education and went to work. I went to work for a small firm in St. Louis, Missouri. If you don't know where that is, it's roughly in the center of the USA. And HOK grew very quickly I joined HOK 49 and 1/2 years ago, almost 50 years ago. And HOK has undergone the same transformation that I have undergone. We grew into a large global company. We tend to specialize in large, complex, complicated, difficult projects like these. This is not an advertisement for HOK today. It's only to illustrate the kind of work. My traditional training was not adequate to describe these projects in a satisfactory way. So each one of these, while it's a beautiful building, was a painful process. One we're very proud of. I now live in San Francisco, and Silicon Valley is just a short way south, headquarters for Apple. So along this lifetime, I began to understand that we had to change, but we're not changing fast enough as a building industry. I could now say the same thing about the infrastructure industry. Those of you in this room or in Germany who do things outside of buildings, roads, bridges, railroads, things like this. We went from two-dimensional drawings when I first started into the practice, and this was our data storage. What do you think of it? It's data storage, right? Cumbersome, difficult, heavy. Now we've really become expert. Most big architects, most small architects are learning, are doing 3D BIM. And now we store data on servers somewhere, either in our office or in the cloud. So what's wrong? Everything. Here's the scorecard. 3 measurements of the building industry lack of efficiency. Buildings consume 40% in the developed world. That would be true, I'm pretty sure, here in Germany, like it is in the US and most other developed countries. Buildings consume 40% of the energy that's produced from all sources. That's far more than all transport, cars, trucks, trains, boats, and airplanes combined. Buildings also fill up 40% of the waste that goes into our landfills. Not so much because we wish to be wasteful, but because we haven't learned how to be effective at reducing waste in our process, our work process. And finally, productivity. Productivity is a key measure for us, for any industry. Are we gaining efficiency as the years go by? We should be, in order to deliver our customers a better result. We're actually losing productivity. This next chart tells the story. Manufacturing, since 1980, this is a United States Commerce Department statistic. Manufacturing has enjoyed steady productivity gains over these decades. The building industry, I'm quite certain the industry that serves for infrastructure would be similar, has actually had a productivity loss. So we are less efficient today than we were 40 years ago. How could that be? We have computers and 3D technology. What's wrong with us? This began to distress me as I had my own practice at HOK and as I experienced designing beautiful buildings for good, noble purposes and having such a difficult process. It's a beautiful baby, but a difficult birth. What can I do about this? That's why I'm standing here today. In 1993, I began speaking to colleagues outside of HOK because I had recognized that it's not just the architect problem, it's the contractor problem, it's the engineer problem, it's the regulator's problem, it's all of our problem combined. So 12 companies in the United States began to have conversations. What can we do? What can we do to bend that productivity curve up? And we eventually came up with this idea that we had to have an organization that was neutral, that was open, and that would allow all the participants in our industry to come together to figure out better ways of collaborating, cooperating, to bend that productivity curve up. Not just for ourselves, yes, it would improve us, but for our customers. By then, I had grown into, at HOK, my career had developed, and I was by then the Chief Operating Officer of HOK. We were quite focused on how do we become more efficient. So this organization in 1996 went out to the world. I remember coming to Munich, I think it was. I met with Dr. Yuli and Rosso and others. And we introduced them to this new organization that we wanted to begin. We wanted a German-speaking chapter. At that time, we had a funny name for it, the Industrial Alliance for Interoperability. I can't even spell that. So we were persuaded that we could change the name to International Alliance for Interoperability. And if you could spell or understand interoperability, we would make you a vice president in the organization. Folks, that's supposed to be a joke. You can laugh, it's okay. In fact, if we laugh together, we somehow accomplish more. So I'm still looking at this curve with Rosso and Dr. Yuli and other people in other chapters. We had our first international meeting in London in 1996. And we began what finally was renamed Building Smart. And Building Smart is intended to be not about just buildings, it's intended to be about the verb to build. So how do we make things in a smart way? And how do we cooperate, collaborate? And as you can see, we've been in business 20 years, but that productivity curve is still going down. So our work is only beginning. We've made some great strides, but we are ripe for disruption as an industry. Disruptive players are looking at us and thinking, I can do better than they can do. So why is HOK committed? Why have we been committed for 20 years? Somebody says, well, please make the business case. What is your return on investment in building smart? I will attempt to tell you. This is not too mathematical. It's pretty simple. We have two reasons to be committed. The first is we need to stay competitive. We have our natural competitors, people that we compete with all the time, just like most of you in this room. We need to stay sharp and we need to get better every day because our competition gets better. And then we need to prepare for disruptors or disruptions. I will tell you about disruptors in just a moment. I'm sure you will get this. Staying competitive. This is just a pretty picture of HOK and some of our competitors. These are large international architects that we compete with every day. And sometimes we win, sometimes they win. I like to think of them as the squares and the rectangles. I don't know why architects, but we all seem to like squares, most of us. That was also a joke. It's okay. This is not a problem, competing with these firms. We know how to compete with these firms. It's beyond the role of the architect that we have the vulnerability. It's the entire process. That's where the disruptors come in. Prepare for disruptions. Brace yourselves. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of disruptors in other industries. And we all know these things. We all understand these things. And we all think it cannot happen to us. Google, in the search field, has eaten dictionaries and is eating libraries and retail shopping and even maps and many, many other things. Google has become a verb. Let's Google that, find out. Searching for information has never been easier. Google didn't make a better dictionary, it made a better workflow. It made a better way for people to find information. So if I'm a dictionary manufacturer or maker, I don't know what my future is. Maybe I need to work for Google. Here's another one, Apple. Apple made the first real smartphone and ate the telephone and writing. And that's an address book, in case you didn't know, and music, and a calendar, and so on, the newspapers, and the camera. All of these, and the television, yes, it's coming and it's already here. And yes, the use of the phone for money, and many, many other things. These two inventions, Google and the smartphone, have changed life. We like to see, we like to walk down, I walk down the street and I see people that's the new normal. So all we learned, I learned how to use a library when I was a student. I learned what a card catalog was and how to find a book. It's all gone. It's not necessary anymore. It's been disrupted by Google and Apple and the smartphone. Here's another one, Uber. It's a good German word, isn't it? Is eating the taxi business and public transport business and many other things. These are just 3 examples of the disruptors. Our industry, because we have a lack of productivity, is ripe for disruption. I'm preparing HOK for that day, so we will have a place. If I can, I will make HOK the disruptor. So who is our disruptor? Who is it for us? That's a joke, folks, but it's supposed to be Gott in Himmel. What will happen to me? What will happen to my business, our business? I just want you to understand that this is bigger than my company, your company. This is our industry that's at stake by disruptors. I happen to know, I have good friends at Google, which is down the road from San Francisco. They're working very hard. The building industry, I don't know about the infrastructure industry yet, except for, of course, cars. The building industry is on their list. They have people doing research thinking there must be a simpler, better way to design and build and deliver finished building products and operate buildings than the industry is providing to customers. So we are ripe for disruption. So when people say, why are you doing this? What's your return on investment? I say it's my formula to survive and prosper in the future of our business. It will change. I would like to lead the change and not be crushed by this change. Do you all understand that? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So 20 years ago, Dr. Yulee and Dr. Steinman and I and many others, like-minded people, formed Building Smart. The only industry body that welcomes all the players in the industry. This isn't just an architect society or an engineer society. This is an industry society. Owners, builders, designers, engineers, regulators, everybody that touches the building industry, building operators. The only organization like it in the world that's open and dedicated to open standards. Are we a technical group? Well, yes, but not entirely. If you missed it at the beginning, I am not a technical guy. I was trained traditionally. I understand the promise of technology, but I couldn't write a line of code if my life depended on it. But what I can do, and what you can do, is help figure out what the future is for your business or your segment of the industry and how it relates to the other segments. That's why Building Smart is the way forward. That's why HOK is committed. We even have a Building Smart group inside of our own company, Building Smart at HOK, which is responsible for driving our own performance. Building Smart is also not only for all the players in the industries, but all the processes. Designing, procuring, assembling of buildings, and operating of buildings. And in the last 2 years, of course, we've become very engaged with the same processes and the same players in the infrastructure industry. There are many big infrastructure companies and clients here in Germany as well as elsewhere in the world. Join with us. Join with us, or wait for a disruptor to come along and really make your day. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for an inspiring speech. I have some questions. May I start with a quite critical question? You showed us a chart with the productivity of manufacturing and the productivity of the construction industry. And the curve with the construction industry goes down constantly until today.
Yes.
Despite 20 years of building smart and despite of 20 years of working with BIM methods. I think it's on.
Yes, it is.
So can you tell me why this tendency hasn't changed yet, please?
We're not moving fast enough. We don't have enough reach. I don't know how big the building and infrastructure industry is here in Germany, but I think this is, Rasso or Dr. Yulee, correct me, is this the largest gathering we've had? And this is a beautiful group, 300 people or something. We need 3,000 people. We need to move faster than we've been moving. We just haven't had enough energy yet to bend that curve. We're getting close, but we're not there yet.
There is a difference between the United States and Europe, especially in the way that architectural and engineer companies in the United States are much, much bigger in comparison to Europe. So this fragmentation is very typical for European markets. And this is not only with architects and engineers, but also with construction companies and so on. Do you see a difference in the way we apply BIM methods in Europe in comparison to the United States, or will it be the same?
I think there's a basis of all the same, a baseline with many local variations. And even in the US, there are some large companies. The average size of an architectural practice in the USA is how many people, would you say? 8. How does that compare with Germany? About the same? There are a few large firms in the US, but even in the US, when we go from California, where I live, to another state, we still speak English, sort of, But there are different building codes, there are different local regulations and requirements. So we have to learn local practice, even if we go from one state to another. Here in Europe, I think you have that extra challenge that the EU and the common marketplace has helped you with. But the problems, I've been around the world and worked in many places, including here in Germany. The problems are more alike than different. And don't think about this as, well, this is a U.S. problem and not a Europe problem. It's our problem together. When Google and the others look to this, they don't look to, well, we're going to disrupt the building industry in the United States, but we'll leave the one in Germany just like it is. They won't do that.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about the disruptors, and you didn't name anyone, despite that you said you would like to do the business of being disruptor. But do you see companies already getting prepared? And which one are they?
Yes, in small ways. Here's a small way. It's very irritating to me personally. I practice in California, big state, almost 40 million people. Most classrooms, most grades, kindergarten through 8, we use that word, kindergarten, good German word. Most classrooms in California are not designed by architects or built by contractors. They come on a truck. They're pre-manufactured modules, come on a truck, and they're set up in the schoolyard, and they attach stairs and ramps to them. And sometimes they connect 2 together, or 3 together, or 4 together. They come pre-built, they're already have code approvals, and they can do something we cannot do. You can call them on the phone and say, I need a classroom next Tuesday. They can give us a classroom next Tuesday. They can finance the classroom. They can get all the approvals. They guarantee their work. They guarantee their price. We can't do that. So as a result, most classrooms in my state are already disrupted. Architects, small firms mostly, used to do this work. It's gone. And the new classrooms that are being built, these modules, are terrible. From an architect standpoint, they're ugly. They're uninspired. They don't have good quality of light or acoustics. But they're affordable. And people can get them when they need them. That's the kind of disruption. So that's a simple example. It's an ugly example. I would like to actually take that marketplace back, but how can we get a process to actually take that piece of the marketplace back? I will give you one other small example, if I may. Mm-hmm. You won't let me talk too long, will you? No?
Wonderful.
Next problem. Okay. So at the same time we began Building Smart, I had this idea that we would disrupt the industry. So I made an arrangement with a very large money concern, Merrill Lynch, to provide financing, and a very large contractor, Turner Construction, which is actually part of HOK now. Talk about big. There's a big company. And HOK and HOK and Merrill Lynch were going to design, build, and finance local civic centers for all the counties in the United States. The United States has 50 states, and each state has many counties. Those are small government groupings. And there are a lot of civic centers that need to be built. And what we found was we were disruptors ahead of our time, because most state laws would not allow us to be selected without a competitive bid process. So that initiative failed, not because it was the wrong idea, but because it was early. But there are people now out there doing the same thing. We're designing and building a new airport in New York City for LaGuardia Airport replacement. If you've ever had the occasion to fly to LaGuardia Airport in New York, it's a horrible airport. It's going to be beautiful. It's all private money, private finance, private team that's designing, building, and operating and guaranteeing a cash flow back to the Port Authority of New York, which owns the land. This is the other thing that will be happening, combining these different parts of the process. So, so far that project is going well, but I will tell you that the pressure on HOK to perform and to be right when we say something is greater than ever, because we're talking about money. And you better be right or else it's very expensive. So yes, there are disruptions happening. I don't know so much about what's happening here, but I'm sure it's happening here as well, in small ways. Just we haven't had a Google or an Uber yet, but we will. I just soon be one myself. How about you?
No, I'm the host. I have to turn it into a positive point of view. I have a question concerning information. Just let me give you an example. Since we have Google, Apple, Netflix, and things like that, when we meet with another family and our children, their children, and the other couple are joining us, and we decide that we want to watch a nice movie, then we have the possibility of choose between 10,000 movies. And it takes us quite as long to decide which kind of movie you want to watch than watching the movie. The same is like I ask my assistant, search for some information. You may use Google. Yes. And it takes quite long to find those information. So we have the problem of orientation in information society. Yes. This will be the same, I think, with BIM methods. I learned that describing a door can have the potential of around about 600 variablen properties. Thank you very much. And even though you don't use them all. So how many people in your company work with BIM methods? And especially the younger one, do they get lost in information or can they structure themselves?
Yes. You ask a very good question. Yeah, so when we started using BIM, we had the same idea that most architects have. Oh, BIM is three-dimensional drawing. I'm drawing a building in 3 dimensions, not 2, and that's BIM. No, that's just outward appearance. BIM is really about the eye information. You're quite right. So we have devoted an enormous amount of energy in my company, HOK, to workflows and how to get information boiled down to making good decisions. And let me describe a little process that we ran into that we think Building Smart can help with. So I want a door for my buildings. I want lots of doors. How do I get these doors? Right now, I used to get them out of catalog, paper. And I used to get them on the phone with the manufacturer's representative. I'm sure you did also. Now we go online, we go to Google, and we go to a door manufacturer, and we look through all the detail to see if we can find, do they have the door that I need? Maybe. And then we have to go to another manufacturer on the web and search through and see if they also have, and try to compare. And it's never easy because they don't compare well. They use slightly different criteria. How many properties did you say? 800?
600.
600. 600. So it's almost impossible to compare. Yes, you have the whole world, you're right. It's like Netflix with movies. How can you possibly know whether this door or that door is the better one for you? So Building Smart is working on a solution that would be available to all of us, a data dictionary Data dictionary would actually allow the architect or the engineer or the contractor or even the owner, out of that criteria, the properties of the doors, to pre-select the 10 or the 20 or the 50 that is important. And the data dictionary would do the searching and the filtering for us and bring us the 10 manufacturers that most closely fit our criteria. They might be here in Germany, they might be in China, they might be somewhere else. But yes, information overload is a real problem, so we have to have filters. Building Smart, we believe we can do this with our data dictionary project, which would be free for people to use and would cost a small amount for the manufacturers of doors and other things to put their information into this format. Otherwise, you're right. There's so much information. How do we find the needle in the haystack? Do you use that expression? No? Needle in a haystack.
Doch.
What is it in Deutsch?
Nadel im Heuhaufen.
Yeah, same. So, yes, this is part of it. But, you know, the disruptors are very good at this. They're very good at getting to the right answer quickly. We have to learn how to be nimble and quick. And that's hard to do.
Last question, a personal one. Do you have children or nephews or nieces?
Yeah, I have all, and I have grandchildren.
Oh, you have grandchildren. Did you encourage one of them to study architecture?
Yes, all of them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.